We'll just call it out. We're referring to our notes. A long tail. Need a drink.
It's Justin and Bethany from the Flack fam, and we are telling our travel story from Salt Lake to Barcelona and Barcelona to Salt Lake.
Yeah, you missed some things. We went to the Mediterranean in that time.
Yes, we did.
But buckle in. This is a different type of video than we've done before, and it's going to be involved. We have a lot of notes, and it will probably be a little full of emotion, not tears, probably just passion.
And we're telling you this just to inform you. It's not, we don't expect you to take pity on us or feel bad for us. We just think this summer travel is going to be crazy. And so we wanted to tell you about what we experienced.
And yeah, we definitely don't need pity because we literally just returned from the Mediterranean and we had a blast. It just was that, like Bethany said, our travel to and from was a little bit weird. So I think we need to start at the very beginning. And if I look down, it's because I'm referencing the notes. This is a very long story. So it started last fall. We started looking at airfare from Salt Lake City to Barcelona, and the flights were outrageous. Main cabin was right around $10,000 to $12,000. And Delta One was at $20,000 a seat. I was ready to cancel the trip. Bethany was a little more optimistic. And for months, she just kept saying, let's wait. And for months, the prices didn't fluctuate, not even a little bit.
That's right. I was a bit more patient and I just really wanted to go to the Mediterranean. We won't tell you what we ended up paying for our flights. It was a bit more than we really wanted to pay, but in the end, we just decided we were going.
Yeah, the prices came down. We didn't pay anywhere near what I just quoted you, but it was still pretty crazy. And we had to get a less than desirable itinerary. So our initial itinerary was to fly from Salt Lake to Seattle, have an 8-hour layover. Then we flew from Seattle to Amsterdam. We had a very tight layover from Seattle to Amsterdam. Once we arrived in Amsterdam. And then we flew into Barcelona, and we got into Barcelona. So that was departing on a Thursday, and we would get into Barcelona around noon on a Friday.
But within a month of booking that, we did have a change where you had to call them back because there was no way we were going to make the connection flight in Amsterdam. Yeah. It was just too close because they had changed our initial flight.
Yeah, it was so tight in the very beginning that any change in our flight from Seattle to Amsterdam would make it so that we missed, unless they pushed it back, of course. But of course they didn't. They pushed it forward. So I ended up calling Delta. They were able to find us a direct flight from Salt Lake City to Amsterdam, which we never saw before when we were shopping. So we were really grateful. And it got us in time to make that same connection. So we would arrive at 8:30 in the morning. We wouldn't depart until 10:30, something like that.
Yeah, it totally decreased our connections that we had. We would have had 2. This made us only have 1. And it also decreased the total time that we were traveling. So it seemed like a great idea.
Let's fast forward to the day that we were departing. Everything went just like it always does, and everything was going great. We were all excited. We got to the airport. I actually dropped everybody off and then went and parked the car and met up with them. And we had to check in at the ticketing counter because a couple of us had renewed our passports, and so Delta was required to check our passports. We checked our bags, and we had tons of time, so we decided to head to the Delta Lounge and relax.
Yeah, and while we were in the Delta Lounge, we found out that our flight was delayed.
Not very long, but again,
that window of getting the connection flight in Amsterdam was tight. We went and talked to the Delta agent in the lounge, and she said there's several other people that are on the same flight with you trying to make that connection and are concerned about this, but they most likely could make up time in the air. So you should probably just keep this connection.
But I was optimistic that we would make time up in the air and that we would land on time and everything was going to be good.
So we headed to our gate thinking, okay, this is gonna work out. But when Justin scanned his ticket to get on the plane, they made him step to the side, and the girls and I ended up, we didn't know what to do, so we went ahead and got on the plane because we wanted to make sure that we could get our bags on.
You took my bag too.
I did. I actually came back and said, give me your bag, so we made sure that we all had space. I started getting a little concerned when we had been sitting there and it was time to take off. So I finally asked the stewardess about it, and she said, oh, I'll look into it, no problem. She looked into the seating map and said, Justin's name is on there. I'll go check at the gate. So she went and checked at the gate and came back and said, they told me to tell you not to worry and that everything will be fine.
Here's where the passion comes in. I'm like reliving this and I'm feeling it. It wasn't frustrating yet, but this is where it got frustrating because Bethany texted me that and I was outside getting a completely different story. So when they had asked me to step aside, they didn't tell me what was going on. They actually took my phone from me, they took my printed ticket from me, and they took my passport. And I stepped to the side and no one said anything to me. The gate agent, when I went to ask her a question, she said, I need to make a phone call. She picked up the phone and she said, you're gonna just need to go sit down. And I said, can you tell me what's going on? And she said, you don't have a ticket for this flight, which was weird to me because I had a printed ticket from the ticketing counter and a digital ticket from the Delta app. And so I thought, well, this will all be resolved. And after 10 minutes of sitting there and listening to her kind of mumble to the other gate agents that something was going on and she didn't know what we had done, like it was my fault that I was sitting off to the side, I started to get nervous. And then I heard her say, it's a 70-minute wait to get in touch with them and the plane doors need to close. I felt my whole face get flushed and I got up and I said, can I have my phone? I need to text my wife. And I texted Bethany and I said, hey, I don't think I'm going to get on this flight. I don't know what's going on, but will you bring me or have the steward or the flight attendant bring me my bag so that I've got it with me? And Bethany texted me back all optimistic and was like, no, she says everything's fine and they're fixing it. And right when I got Bethany's text, 2 Delta Redcoats, as I was writing my notes, I was like, man, Delta Redcoats, what a weird brand. Anyway, 2 Delta Redcoats came over and they said, is this the man? And they said, yes. And he said, how did he get a printed boarding pass if he doesn't have a ticket? And they said he at some point had to have a ticket because his family already boarded the plane. Everything was fine. 30 minutes went past. And they said, we're going to close the boarding doors and we still have X amount of time. I can't remember how much time they said, waiting for central reservations. And the whole time I sat, admittedly, they could probably tell that I was like bright red, mad, but I didn't say anything. I didn't talk to them. I let them do what they needed to do. And I again informed Bethany that I thought she ought to bring me my bag, but she was sitting on the plane being positive, which I was grateful for. And they closed the gate door, which they do not reopen gate doors. And I looked up and that was the first time I said anything. And I said, what are you guys doing to get me on this flight? And they said, for some reason, sir, you do not have seats on this flight. And I said, my wife is on the flight. They have it on the seating chart. I have it in my app. I have a printed ticket. How are you telling me I don't have a ticket? And they said, look, what you're going to have to do is meet your family at their final destination. And so I had one gate agent looking at what it would take for me to fly to meet my wife and kids, and there was no way that I could get there in time for us to depart on our cruise ship on Saturday. And so I would have to fly to Naples, where I would meet them 3 days later. It was like the first day of the cruise, the second day was at sea, and then Naples was the third day, and that's where I would have to fly to meet them. And I said, okay, if that's what we have to do. And all of a sudden somebody picked up the phone and they said, hey, we're gonna have to make some changes. And I heard them saying some things, and then somebody said, let's go, we got to get you on this flight. And they ran me down the sky bridge and put me on the flight. In my head, I was thinking to myself, what the heck happened? As the person that walked me onto the flight came and put me on the flight, they said, by the way, we had to decouple your reservation from your family's reservation, and therefore you may not have the same seats. You may not be, I can't remember what else they told me, but they just kind of alluded to the fact that that would cause some problems. And so I immediately got on my app and started checking. And sure enough, it looked like they had done something to our connecting flights in Amsterdam, and I freaked out. I knew that I could chat with them once I was in the air. Sorry, I talked so much. I apologize.
No, it's okay.
It was passion.
It was your story. I was just like about ready to bawl on the plane for a little bit until the stewardess told me that it was okay, and I believed her, and you did finally get on, so.
Yeah, I got on and I had that realization, and I remember I turned to you and said, I think they might have done something to our Amsterdam flight. And Bethany looked it up, and it looked fine on your app, right?
It
and it looked fine on the girls' app. And so I was like, crap, it's just me. And so I started immediately, like I said, chatting. We had a 10-hour flight, red-eye flight. I started chatting, and I chatted on and off with different Delta agents the entire 10 hours and still didn't get a resolution. But when we landed, I immediately connected to the cellular network and updated my app, and it still showed that we had tickets.
Well, okay, so we get to Amsterdam, and like we said, there's several other people just like us trying to make the same connecting flight.
And we were a little late.
Right.
Because of me and everyone. That was the bad part, was I felt like I had to do a walk of shame. And everyone was frustrated because there were so many people that needed to make connections. Anyway.
Right. So they tell us basically anybody that doesn't have this connecting flight that should be boarding right now, can you please let these people go? Which was nice.
But that never happened.
Right.
We all want to get off the plane, right? So
it's true. There were a few people that let us go ahead.
Yeah.
We run through Amsterdam airport with several other people to this KLM flight. And if you remember our questions video in Europe, we were a little already concerned about KLM and are our bags going to be okay and all this. So we kind of didn't know what to expect, but we had to go through passport check. Then we get to this KLM flight, and I think you were at the front.
They were just about to start boarding.
We basically were told that you don't have tickets.
Yeah, I scanned. So I scanned my ticket, and they said they scanned it again, and then they scanned it again, and it was awesome because they started speaking Dutch to me. And I think I would have thought that my complete I'm an idiot look on my face would have gave it away that I didn't speak Dutch, but it didn't, and they just continued. And I finally said, I'm sorry, I don't speak Dutch. And the woman said, I'm sorry, you don't have seats on this flight. She took me over to the computer and she looked it up, and she said, it looks like these were canceled by Delta about 12 hours ago or 10 hours ago or something to that effect. In my mind, it happened very quickly, but I'm sure that I just stared at her blankly. But I immediately picked up my phone, from what I recall, and I had just chatted with them for 10 hours. I just hit the call button, and they had a 70-minute wait. And I was like, well, that's not going to get us on this flight. And they said, the only thing we can have you do is run to the customer service.
KLM, they were so nice. Unfortunately, though, because we had booked through Delta, they really couldn't do a lot for us.
Yeah, the guy at customer service, he said, let me give you a different number to call. He gave me a different number, and I waited probably 25 minutes. It was the first time I had talked to a human being where I was told that essentially it was my fault. And they said it was my fault that our flights got canceled because for some reason we were on two separate reservations. And I was trying to tell her we weren't on two separate reservations until someone had to reissue me a ticket on a new reservation. In the end, the KLM agent was able to help the Delta agent find us a ticket. It gave us a 9-hour layover in Amsterdam, and then it gave us two connecting flights. Amsterdam to Paris on KLM, Paris to Barcelona on Air France. All we had to do was find somewhere to camp for 9 hours, and so we immediately headed to the KLM lounge.
Which we really did enjoy Amsterdam's airport. We want to go back to Amsterdam just because of their airport.
Except we slept all day.
We did sleep a lot.
I mean, we hadn't slept all night, and so this gave us an opportunity. It was very, busy. The lounge was one of the busiest lounges I've ever seen. And we'll do a review on it, but it
Yes.
was
Yeah.
it was a different experience than what we experience here.
Yeah, we were supposed to have a little more than a half a day and then a night prior to getting on our cruise, and we ended up getting in about midnight and getting to our hotel, which was way better than getting there 3 days late, or the other possibility was we would have got there on the day of our cruise at like noon, and we would have had to have just gone to the cruise.
So I was so grateful to KLM. They're definitely somebody that they went above and beyond with their customer service, and they were extremely empathetic. I was appreciative of that.
Yeah, and we did make it to our cruise, and it was amazing. And we loved Barcelona too. We stayed in Barcelona after, and I would definitely go back there. It was awesome.
But it wasn't all awesome from this point on. In fact, it got just a little bit worse and more frustrating. And I'm going to say this multiple times in this video, but it all stemmed back to that original reissue of our ticket where we took the Seattle to Amsterdam leg out of our flight. Something there happened, a clerical error of some kind. I finally got one Delta agent that admitted it, but I digress. The return home was bad.
Yeah.
We're going to get into it.
Yeah. Do you want to get into that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's get into that. So at the time of our trip, we still needed negative COVID tests within 24 hours of our flight to get back into the United States. So like Bethany said, we finished our cruise and then we ended up staying in Barcelona for around a week. And so the night before our flight, which I believe was a 10 a.m. flight, we took our COVID tests. We did them in our room under the supervision of a physician or something back here in the States. And then we packed everything up. We went to bed and we got up the next morning and we were all ready to jump in. Literally, we were grabbing our luggage and walking out the door.
That's when Abby walked into our room and said, "Did anybody else get this message that our flight is canceled?"
Bethany and we looked at each other, but my phone was already up to my ear. Talking to Delta again. I talked to 2 agents in the morning after our flight was canceled. I talked to one and they said, "I can't help you. I need to transfer you." I held for about an hour for that person. This is where she really blamed it on me. She was very nice in tone, but she said to me, "Well, if you didn't have 2 reservations, then this would not be so difficult. So in the future, please don't do that." I can't remember what else was said. I had kept my calm, right? Is that true?
Yes.
Until she said, "I'm going to put you on hold and see what the reason for the flight cancellation was." And all of a sudden in my head, I was like, this is where they tell me that it was due to weather and it's all going to be our responsibility and they wouldn't help with anything. And I swore, not at her, just at the universe, because I was like, shoot, now we're gonna be stuck here. The new flight was supposed to leave at
5.
So they only rebooked that one connection, right? From Barcelona to JFK. What they weren't rebooking was our connection from JFK to Salt Lake City. And so I was trying to get them to leave us on that flight that they had already rebooked us on at 5 o'clock and then give us a hotel in New York and fly out in the morning. And so admittedly, I swore and that offended her and she stopped everything that she was doing and she said, "That's one thing I refuse to put up with. I will no longer help you."
Right, but you did, thank goodness, talk her down and she still did book the flight that you wanted, right?
Yeah, yep. No, she didn't book the flight that we wanted. She ended up telling me that it was my fault because I swore. And because I swore and she had to tell me to calm down, I missed seats on that flight. So she put us on a flight for the next day that flew from Barcelona to Atlanta. Not only that, but they downgraded us, which I understand. If there's no seats, there's no seats. But they downgraded us. And when I asked if that would be something that would be reimbursed, I was told no. At that point in time, I was told no, you would not get a reimbursement. And I was essentially told, you're lucky that we're getting you home that quickly. Bethany and I are an interesting couple. And sometimes I don't explain things like every couple. I don't explain things in the way that she needs to be explained. And so she was asking me, why did you accept something like that? And in my mind, I was just grateful that I accepted anything or got anything because I had offended this woman. So I told you, why don't you get on the call with them and see if you can get something different, right?
Yes, and it wasn't much better for me. I was on the phone for most of the morning and, oh, hello. Nothing really got resolved. It got more complicated and somehow you got upgraded. We got downgraded to main cabin. And none of us were sitting together because, of course, they're just trying to piecemeal these flights for us.
Yeah, we understand that we're being moved to existing flights that other people had already booked. That makes complete sense.
And thank goodness our girls were big enough that it wasn't that big of a deal.
But at the end of that, so after everything was resolved, or so Bethany thought, Bethany had said to the woman, can we confirm that my husband's ticket is correct? And then something else happened. She brought up something else and they got sidetracked and Bethany ended up saying goodbye. And I said to Bethany, did you confirm that my seat was right? And she said, no. And she was done, right? Like at this point, I think I was at about 44 hours talking on the phone or chatting with Delta agents, just trying to get everything resolved. And that's from the beginning of our trip to the end of our trip, or at least to this point of our trip. I had to call back and have them confirm. And in the process of me calling back and them telling me, we're sorry, there are no other seats on this flight. And if we do anything, your family's gonna miss out. Bethany goes to check in on the app. And here's the other thing. We had offered to pay to get them to be able to sit together by upgrading or doing whatever. And they told us there are no seats available. So Bethany gets an upgrade offer and decides to take it. And so here I am on the phone with a Delta agent telling me there are no seats available, not even for purchase. And Bethany's able to purchase upgrades. So I was going, I really don't know what the disconnect between Delta's website and how the back end connects them to their phone agents and then how are their chat agents involved in that. It seemed like no one was on the same page.
I didn't think we were going to talk about upgrades.
I know. I shouldn't have brought that up, but I did. That's an important distinction to make, right? Like we were being told you can't do this and at the same time sold seats.
Being offered it.
Yeah. It was so bizarre. The last piece of the puzzle was that we were now stuck in Barcelona for a full day more. We needed a hotel. And so I asked, what can we do about a hotel? And what I was told was, you're going to need to go to the Barcelona airport. So we were about 40 minutes away from the Barcelona airport. So they said, go there. You'll probably have to wait for a while, but find a red coat. And because it's in Barcelona, you may not see one for a while, which was not comforting. They said the red coat would be able to give you a voucher for a hotel near the airport. And what I didn't want to do is spend an entire day traveling to the airport, waiting for somebody, re-explaining the entire situation, letting them confirm whether I was eligible for a hotel voucher, and then having them put us out by the airport when what we could do is just stay at our hotel and do things that we knew we wanted to do but didn't get a chance to do.
Right. So we asked, our hotel was the Eurostar Grand Marina. And so lucky enough, when we asked them, they actually allowed us to stay in our exact same rooms that we were in.
Allowed. Just took a nice credit card.
It was a little pricey for sure, but we were really close to a lot of things to do in Barcelona, and so it was worth it to us to at least enjoy that time that we were stuck.
And look, we made it home. And we made it home. It was only one day, one and a half days additional, but we made it home.
It totally makes us think about, like, in the future, how we travel, how we book things, making sure that we book exactly what we want, even though I don't know that we could have changed this situation.
Well, we heard so many different stories. Don't be bargain hunters. Don't book on places like Expedia, which we didn't do any of those things. And that was the thing that was so frustrating. But here's the bottom line. I am pretty locked in with Delta. I fly pretty much exclusively with Delta, and I fly a lot with Delta. I'm a platinum, I might be diamond medallion. I don't know at this particular moment. We pay for the reserve Reserve card, which is not cheap, pretty much exclusively book Delta for all of our personal travel. And I'm going to have a hard time flying with them for a while.
Yeah, we know that every airline has its issues. The issue was how we were treated. It started with Delta's clerical error, and we were told over and over that it was our fault of how we booked things, or that we were messing with our flights, or you were getting mad at them so they were going to help you.
It went beyond that. It was like, oh, did you try to upgrade your seats in the app? Did you call and try to change your itinerary? There was a lot that happened. We never once tried to ask Delta for something that we didn't pay for. We never once asked for a change unless they made a change. All we were asking them to do was honor the contract that we kind of got into them with, of we want you to take us from this destination to this destination and then back. And it almost seemed like that wasn't going to happen. I can't tell you how many empty apologies I got. And I know there was a million other people, not a million, but there was at least 400 other people calling on the return flight to do the exact same thing that we were doing. So I recognize that it was a challenge, but the empty promises and the blaming were so hard. Every step of the way, it was acting like we were trying to get something for free when we weren't. You know, the thing that I am dreading the most, like all in all, over 50 some odd hours on the phone with customer service, being delayed, out extra money for food and all of that. And all we were told was, well, you can dispute with Delta and try and get them to cover some of those costs. And then at the same time, flat out told, you're not going to be reimbursed for half of what you're talking about, meaning the hotel, because we chose to stay at the hotel we were already at. We have to now go back and calculate all those additional costs, food for the extra day, what the hotel was, just in case they will help us with that hotel. We're out additional money so that we could put my entire family on the exact same flight. It wasn't just about upgrading, it was about getting everybody on the same flight to get home so that we didn't get separated. And I don't think we made that clear earlier, but we have to calculate all of that. And then guess what I have to do? Or you.
Get back on that phone.
That 50 some odd hours jumps to another who knows how much.
We had to pay for more COVID tests.
Oh, that's right.
Did we talk about that?
We didn't. We'll tell about that.
So we thought we were doing such a good job. We did our COVID test the night before, and by the time we were going again, it had been 24 hours. So we had to do new COVID tests at the airport.
Yeah, we didn't know that though until we got to the ticketing agent. It had barely, when I calculated out, had been barely over 24 hours. And she was like, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to go get it.
She actually even went and asked somebody else if we could just use those, and they were like, nope, they've got to go redo them.
Understandable. I wish they would have told us that when we were going through the whole process, but I recognize that COVID regulations are changing every day. In fact, a day after we got home, they changed it so you don't have to have that. And we were so frustrated because how much did it cost us?
$150 for our first ones that we bought in the United States. And then it was 200 at the airport.
200 euros at the airport.
Oh yeah, euros. So a little bit more than US dollar.
Yeah, so that's the story for now. We'll definitely make a follow-up to this video once everything's said and done.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get some money back from it. If not, whatever. We're home. I don't think we would change our travel experience by any means because we had such a great trip.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Regardless of who you fly with this summer, just know that they're short-staffed, and I think this is going to be an issue. I think this, especially for international flights and potentially just connecting flights.
Well, we say that. Right when we got home, I left for Texas to speak, and my flight out to Texas was delayed. My flight home was delayed. Was almost canceled. So yeah, it's happening even in the States. So I think it's just travel in general. This all started from when they reissued our tickets after our connecting flights overlapped. At some point there on the back end, they didn't reissue my ticket. So I think the lesson that we would have for you guys out there is to make sure that before you go, you're calling and confirming that everything's good. I was told, I don't know that I believe it, but I was told that if we had done that, they would have been able to catch it. I don't know, but it's worth trying, especially if it's a big trip or you're traveling with family. If I'm traveling for business, it's a different story, but if I'm traveling with my family, that changes things. So yeah.
If you've made it this far, thanks for sticking with us.
For everyone else, what the heck did we do to you to make you abandon us?
If they already left, then who are you talking to?
I don't know.
Thanks for watching, and next week will be much more fun because it will actually be part of our fun trip.
Yes, it will.
Bye.
Bye.